looking forward to this presentation and bringing your written entry to life for us this afternoon. You are the last one that we're watching, so we've had a few today, but looking forward to this one as well, because there's some great content going on. I'm a marketer, have been for 20 years. I've worked in advertising agency roles. I've worked client side as a marketing manager. For the last nearly 10 years, I've run my own consultancy business, mainly working with B2B clients, supporting them, advising them. But I also have a really nice mix of not only being hands-on and mentoring and planning, but also teaching and training digital marketing and social media for B2B as well.
Fantastic.
Cool. And last, Tim Pritchard, MD of Customer Experience at Kantar. So look after UK and Ireland, team of about 50 people that design and run big customer feedback programs for clients like Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Holidays, Bupa, Nationwide, Building Society, the Post Office, Hyundai, and many others. Effectively feeding back the sort of voice of the customer so we can tell or advise our clients where they need to focus improvement efforts and investment. We have recently acquired an organisation called Mavens of London. It's a big digital activation organisation, digital experience sort of analytics company, about 130 people, and they do a fair bit of work for Unilever. I'm not sure about food solutions, but definitely for Unilever. So very interested in this one.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you, Holly. I've been vegan for 5 years. So again, being ambassador for a vegan forum in the UK, that's also a personal privilege to see something that is being done for the community. So floor is yours.
Excellent, cool. Well, thank you guys. Yeah, and again, yes, thank you. So I suppose I'm just going to minimize you, so I've got my view up here. There we go. So I guess first off, just about me. So I'm Holly Elwood. I am a senior paid search consultant for Receptional. I've been here for about 3.5 years now. In terms of sort of more broadly speaking, I've been nearly 10 years in digital marketing, which is literally my entire career, which I fell into quite nicely. As it turns out, I liked it, so that was good. And then in terms of sort of this campaign and the project, so Unilever Food Solutions, again, obviously a very big brand, Unilever, but Food Solutions is sort of, it's built by chefs, a global network of food service professionals. And their aim is sort of to inspire, train, and provide the best product solutions within the food industry. So how this kind of came about was they originally came to us through another agency called Omni, formerly known as Foodsmiths, as a client of theirs. But Omni don't do anything related to PPC. So they were keen to test out sort of paid search and all that kind of mix as a new channel, because they actually don't do anything currently, or they hadn't at the time. They just kind of wanted to see whether they could utilize it to sort of reach their audience. So when they came to us initially, it was sort of mid to late last year. And we've done 2 campaigns for them, and this is sort of the second of the 2. I've sort of touched upon the initial campaign we did because it was quite an important touch point for sort of the success we saw within this campaign. But so we'd basically so we'd sort of taken the learnings from the first one and applied it to our approach for this. So in terms of sort of what the objective was for this campaign, we wanted to drive traffic to the Food Solutions website with the aim of downloading this PDF, which was sort of a vegan dish inspiration PDF, and sort of to encourage users to find out more about Unilever and their vegan product offering. And then later down the line to, hopefully then convert them into customers. So the primary sector targets for the message we were going to deliver here was pubs and restaurants, quick service restaurants and cafes, and hotels. And we ran the activity for 4 weeks, and we did that around the sort of the Veganuary, just because the sort of awareness and stuff was sort of heightened around that time around sort of plant-based diets. So we thought that would be a good time to sort of capitalize on that. In terms of sort of measuring success, so on the dedicated landing page that we sort of helped them create, we tracked video views, PDF downloads, and newsletter signups as well. So just making sure we're capturing all different key touch points. The main goal itself was PDF downloads, but we saw any kind of engagement with these as valuable, purely because of what we were trying to test. And that kind of comes in now. So the challenge that was sort of presented, and we'd already learned from the previous activity, was that the audience is really hard to reach in isolation, using sort of what Google's got currently in terms of their targeting capabilities, which, whilst great in many regards for this audience because it's so niche, it was a real challenge, and we saw that sort of with the previous Hellmann's campaign promotion we did. So what we found is, whilst we were reaching our target audience, we were actually reaching them within a much wider pool of people who were also irrelevant, and just generally people who are into cooking and recipes and things like that. So what that kind of meant for the Hellmann's campaign was we wasted, well, I say wasted, I suppose we got learnings from it, but it was wasted budget on irrelevant users, which therefore resulted in, it yielded poor campaign results overall. But with that said, the disparity in the results that we saw between Hellmann's and the vegan activation kind of speak for themselves. I think at this point it's fair to note in terms of actually how much budget there was for each, because it was different. Hellmann's had about a £5,000 budget over a 6-week period, and we only ended up spending 4 because I kind of live by the philosophy, if it was my money, what would I do? And if something's not working, we don't want to continue down that route. With the vegan activation, we had about a 7k budget over 4 weeks. But we ended up actually spending about 8k because through one channel, because it performed so well. So something else to note as well is that, much to my dismay, the tracking for week 1 of vegan activation wasn't working. So we're actually missing some of the conversion data for that. And this was with teething problems around the fact that we were having to use the partner agency Google Ads account, getting sort of misinformation and a bit of confusion around which Google Analytics property we were supposed to be linking with and things like that. But at the end of the day, things sort of ended up working well. There wasn't really any problems with that. But just kind of note that conversions may well have actually been higher, and our cost per conversion may have been affected by that too. So, sorry, it's not switching over. So it's worth noting what we did the first time round with the Hellmann's campaign. So this was a campaign to basically offer a free sample in terms of like a box of like Hellmann's mayonnaise to restaurants and pubs and things like that. So we knew we couldn't reach this audience through Google search, because search wouldn't show intent in this case, and who was searching for such a thing, but 2, because it was a free sample kind of promotion, who would actually be searching for it. So we made the decision to use the display network. And what we did in terms of using display network was we layered our audiences that we created, so custom intent audiences, who sort of hoping would fall within sort of wholesale food suppliers and distributors, and food ingredient suppliers and distributors. We layered that in with contextual relevance. So the placements we chose to display the banners were only on sort of relevant websites, as much as we could possibly control, again through sort of the limitations of Google. But we wanted to basically try and reach our audience when they were in that frame of mind, sort of, yeah, again, just to add the layer of relevancy there. So how that kind of differs from the vegan activation, and bear with me because this looks a little bit complicated. We decided to go with the same way of building our custom intent audience. But what we decided to do was we only targeted those through the video layer of this funneling only. Video is sort of the cheapest channel available at just a few pence per view. And you're only paying for the longer form ad types. You're only paying when someone watches 30 seconds of a video or more. So you're kind of getting like a brand awareness aspect in regardless, even if people skip and you don't pay, but then also you're only paying for people who are actually engaged. From there, what we did was we filtered down into display and search, which were used as remarketing tools only. And we remarketed to 1, previous website visitors, because they're sort of proven to have been interested in some sort of product offering. And that was a pool of about 15,000 people by the time we sort of everything was said and done. But more importantly, and from an acquisition standpoint, we looked at only retargeting engaged video ad viewers. And by engaged, what we mean is they had either watched the entire video or they had interacted in some way, had potentially clicked through to the landing page and things like that. So everyone who's seen a video and then been engaged, they would be served with, if they were then searching for vegan related terms or products on Google, they would be served an ad, but no one else would. And similarly to what we did with Hellmann's, they were then served display ads across the display network. So all of these fed through to the landing page, and then anyone who then didn't convert, we fed back through into the funnel. So to try and just maximize the outcome as much as possible. So we can't really talk about a winning campaign without sort of the winning creatives. And again, this is just to highlight here what we did in terms of the contextual relevance we wanted to put into place. So we did that across YouTube and with display. So now I've got a video. It's got some music, which I don't think I've actually done what I was supposed to do. So that was our longer form ad that we didn't create ourselves. We helped them with a brief in terms of sort of best practice and things like that. It always makes me incredibly hungry. So I absolutely loved it. And then as well, this is just the 6-second non-skippable bumper ad we had created as well. So this one, oh, that's a lot louder. So literally all this is to bolster on to people who are seeing that main longer message. Would also be at some point whilst they're on YouTube displayed this as well, and it's just to echo and amplify sort of the main message of the ad. So then moving on to creatives to do with the display banners. So again, we layered in the exact same way as we did with video, and except the audience is slightly different here in terms of we're only looking at sort of the engaged video ad viewers as the audience from sort of the first step in the funnel. So we kind of took this a step further, and we decided that to get as much learnings as possible from this, we wanted to A/B test call to action. So you'll see when this skips through to here. So get your free guide versus find out more. So those are the call to actions that we wanted to test. And these yielded some interesting results as well, which are probably worth looking at. So I've included in here. So quite a big table of data here. So I've just highlighted in red the ones that we sort of looked at in terms of making our decision. So when we did the A/B split test, I'm not sure how familiar you are with sort of Google Ads and the interface, but you can run an experiment, and it's quite a very controlled way of monitoring results between sort of a difference in campaign changes. In this case, the banner creative themselves. So what we found in terms of the variance was we find out more. We got significantly, and this is just through the testing period, these figures, not for when we rolled out the winner. We got significantly more clicks and a higher click-through rate than we did for the messaging for Get Your Free Guide. But we found that the engagement on the website in terms of bounce rate was poorer, and the conversion rate and therefore cost per conversion were significantly poorer than with the Get Your Free Guide messaging instead. So what we kind of inferred from this, which is backed up by that data, is with the free guide, people are knowing what to expect when they click through. If they're not interested in that offering, then they're not clicking, which is really what we wanted. Normally we'd want a higher click-through rate and everything else, but at the end of the day, we don't want to pay for clicks that result in nothing, and not the right audience that we're looking for. And then with the find out more, variant. Perhaps you're creating more intrigue. However, the offering itself of the PDF download, or maybe the users themselves, it's not quite as an attractive an offering when they're actually clicking through. So there's a higher bounce rate and less conversions because it's not necessarily what they're after. So needless to say, we went with the free guide variant for the rest of the campaign period. So kind of back onto the results of the main campaign. And again, I appreciate this is quite a lot of data, but we did do some forecasting and obviously got some different results. And I think I'm just going to take the headlines from this rather than a deep dive in because I'm time conscious. In terms of direct conversions across every channel, we achieved more than we'd thought. The cost per acquisition that we were paying was quite significantly lower. And of course, again, to note, the actual cost was higher because we put more money into the display remarketing than we were initially planning to, purely because it was performing so much better than we'd sort of expected. So it's interesting the fact that we kind of went from the Hellmann's campaign where the direct conversions were so poor through display to where this then became the best channel for direct conversions. And this is like definitely because we used video as a pre-qualifier for our audience. So whilst we're using a very cost-effective channel for video to serve that larger pool, which includes relevant users, by using remarketing to only the most engaged ad viewers, we were honing further into that relevant niche pool that we were looking for. So again, in terms of the headlines and some actual sort of percentages attached. So we had a 31.4% lower cost per conversion than expected. We had 51.58% more conversions. And finally, we drove 42.13% more visits than we anticipated as well. So I'd mentioned earlier that PDF downloads were sort of the main measure of success. So it makes sense for us to kind of look at what those conversions actually were and whether they were actually, in fact, PDF downloads. So apologies for this as the legends are back to front here. But this is sort of week on week what we got in terms of results for conversions sort of broken down. So newsletter sign-ups, we had very minimal amounts, which is a shame, but again, wasn't the key thing we were looking for. Video views kind of differed sort of week on week, but then we can see sort of week on week for the PDF downloads. And again, I'm only including 3 weeks because we're missing the first week. By the 4th week, these had just completely shot up, which is why we started throwing more money at it. We basically sort of bottom ended what we were spending because we knew that we had a provable working model. We would have actually liked to have run this for a lot longer than the 4 weeks. Because we think we could have carried on with that momentum a little bit, but again, we were sort of resigned to the fact we were basing it around sort of the Veganuary sort of thing going on. So we left it at 4 weeks. So finally, just to look at this in terms of how it translated to the cost per conversion week on week. Again, no data for week 1 on that, but in terms of sort of the first week, so we started off with quite a high CPA. And then as we're making changes and optimizing throughout, we got to week 3 where we were sort of in line with what we were expecting, around the £63 mark for a CPA. And by the time we got to week 4, we were at about £25, which was way more, sort of way better than we were anticipating. So kind of just thought it was useful to show this, because had we continued, we might well have seen an even lower CPA. And of course more conversions as we went along. So all in all, quite successful.
Holly,
I think
I'm just going to stop you here. Just 2 minutes to go.
Cool. Yeah, we're at the end. No worries. So in terms of key takeaway, so what we took away from this was, for niche audiences, video works incredibly well as an extremely cost-effective audience qualifier and a first step in a funneled multi-channel approach. And then what's important to add here is, again, without the Hellmann's failure, we wouldn't have been pushed to find this new approach and to use video in such a way. And again, I know it would be something I'll take to other clients where we have a similar issue. I know it's something that Unilever have certainly taken on board in terms of any marketing they go forward with. So just leaving on a snippet of a testimonial from Bayer, who was my contact throughout the campaign period. We had a really great working relationship, and it was fantastic to work with her. We basically worked hand in hand with her sort of industry knowledge and my technical knowledge, and I think that was sort of key to us doing well. So with that, thank you very much for listening to me go on quite a bit there. And yeah, any questions?
Thank you, Holly.
No worries.
Any
I'll
questions? Yeah.
I'll go first. Holly, I don't have any specific questions for you, but I just wanted to say that that was a really confident presentation and clearly showed how technically knowledgeable you are and how you obviously lived and breathed this campaign as it was going on in January, and how, you know, you wanted it to continue. Do you think, even though it didn't continue at the time, you might repeat it next January?
The sad thing is, and thank you very much, that really means a lot to me. The sad thing is we reached a point where we had other things in the pipeline we wanted to work together for, but they decided, because the company Unilever, obviously it was one small section of a massive company. They, by the end of this campaign, they'd actually decided that they had an agency who they wanted to basically umbrella everything, and they went with them. In terms of the working relationship with Bayer and sort of her team and things, we were both a bit gutted, really, because I would have loved to have run some similar things. But I guess it kind of is what it is. But it's sad. Hopefully in the future the opportunity will come up again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks from me as well, Holly. It was really good. Diving into the sort of target audiences, by which I mean the four pillars or segments that you had, the sort of the green living enthusiasts and cookie enthusiasts through to the two chef segments. Do you have a view as to which of those you penetrated and sort of were most resonant with more than the others? Did you succeed in one area but less so with another?
Oh, sorry, you've just cut out there a little bit for me. I've got the main message of it. I should be a bit clearer in terms of, I'm just pulling up the thing for myself. So in terms of that audience shown within that sort of that circle, that wider pool, those were sort of preset audience types, or affinity audiences we call them, that Google had made. What we actually did was we didn't use those presets because we knew that they were going to be too broad. We used them as a basis of creating our own audience. It's called a custom intent audience, and what that does is it basically, you can put in your own keywords and actually search terms, in fact, for when you're using video, and it will generate an audience of people who have been searching actively for that on Google, or who fit or have been browsing sort of relevant websites with those keywords in mind. I have actually written down what we sort of put into that, and I'm just trying to find the slide where I put it, because I know I didn't go into it. That's it. Okay, so what we looked at for custom intent was we looked at people who had visited competitor websites, industry media websites, supplier and distributor websites, and topical websites, as well as some keywords sort of searchable on Google. So that's kind of what made up the audience. So we didn't really get a drill down into which of those performed better, because it was a combined audience. But again, I think, yeah, the key takeaway was just the fact that we were pre-qualifying, which is something I was absolutely chuffed with the results of this, because I kind of didn't have high hopes after sort of what we'd seen the first time round. I was surprised that they'd wanted to trial something again. Because they weren't actually too unhappy with the Hellmann's results, because I guess because it's not their wheelhouse. Whereas I felt a bit more like this isn't, you know, what we'd expected. We would have expected better.
Thank you.
Just a quick question from me, Holly. Did you had a chance to collect any feedback, you know, from your end users, both on the creatives and on a copy?
In what way? Sorry.
To understand if that really, you know, resonates. You know, again, this is a niche audience and very specific, and you know, I'm one of the audiences here for you because I'm vegan myself.
Sorry, sorry, you just cut out there a bit. Could you repeat that, please? Sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to understand, did you actually get any feedback after the campaign from your audience, both on the creative and on the copy? Because being part of the audience myself, I know that it's usually very critical on how this audience is being approached. So what kind of, it's still quite, you know, I would say delicate subject to trying to convince people to to move, or even the restaurants, and it's a very short period that you have, as you said, because you tried this again with Veganuary.
So I think we didn't get. It's a good question, and it's probably something I should have really looked at a little more closely. There wasn't anything in terms of feedback from sort of the video creatives and things like that themselves. Of course, we got the results in terms of how many people were viewing sort of the ad the full way through and things like that. So we knew how engaging the message was, and of course there's going to be some people outside of their target audience within that as well. But in terms of sort of, I guess, through the search remarketing, that we tested out, as is best practice, we tested out perhaps 3 to 4 ad copy variations sort of per keyword set, but we didn't see any disparity in terms of a performance in sort of click-through rate and engagement really between that. And I suppose that's probably more likely to happen again when you're remarketing, and that you're only marketing to those people who've already seen the ad and then they're actively searching. So there wasn't too much in terms of a difference between the messaging, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think we don't have any other questions, so again, thank you very much.
No, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it.